All right, friends, let's go ahead and get started. No making fun of my quick choice of music. It was what I could quickly find on Amazon Music on my phone. That wasn't too crazy. First off, good evening. Thank you. Good afternoon. I want to say evening. It feels like it's been a long day, but we're still just afternoon. Thank you for being here as a part of this session. You know, you were invited to be a part of this because you stepped up, and when the call went out asking for those who might be interested in being a family ambassador in one of our buildings, you stepped up and said, you know, you had an interest in doing that. And so the purpose tonight is really to kind of talk through a little more about the program, what some of the expectations are, how it fits in our overall family engagement strategy, and to really give you that best sense of, so this is what you'd be in for, as then we move towards the interview process and assigning folks to be our family ambassadors. So that's the purpose tonight, is to make sure you know what you're getting into before you commit and be a part of what we think is going to be an exciting year in Columbus City Schools. So my name is Scott Varner. I am the Executive Director for Family Engagement here in Columbus City Schools, and we're excited about our opportunities to really grow and make even stronger family engagement in our district. There's three of us tonight you're going to hear from. I'm going to share a little bit more with you about kind of what our goals are for this year, and really what we're calling authentic engagement and how this position fits within it. Then you're going to hear from our two coordinators who this program has been, gosh, it has been their passion and efforts for several years, and really seeing it grow to where it's at today. Garima Waldemariam and Seneca Bing, they're going to share more with you about the program and how, kind of what the next steps are to seeing if you're still interested, and where we might be able to place you and the interview process. So that's our plan tonight. Let me begin. You know what? I thought we would start with sharing something with you that only a few other people have gotten to see so far. So if you were a part of Columbus City Schools last year, you may have seen that our theme for last year was Rise Up. This idea that as a district, as a community, we needed to rise up to meet and support our students given the great challenges that COVID brought before us. So that was great for last year. But for this year, the message is all in. Asking, are you all in for Columbus City Schools? And first off, you know, all in, that means that's a reminder to our families that, you know what, unlike last year where it was hybrid, you were here some days, not other days, guess what? We are all in 5 days a week, everybody back in the building. So that's first what all in means, but all in is also about that commitment. I know that many of you have to being all in to support our young people and our families. So our theme for this year is all in, not just all in to be in the buildings, but all in to support our families, all in to support our students, our community being all in to make sure that we are a success, that we have a successful school year. So that, how about that for a sneak preview? So starting today, if you follow us on social media, as you start to maybe see emails coming from the district, you're going to see this message of all in, and you'll be able to say, well, gosh, I saw that first. You're among the group that got to see that first. So why are we focused on family engagement? Well, as a district, we recently kind of went through a pretty extensive process. Some of you actually were a part of it, as we really went through a strategic, a process to really kind of find our strategic priorities. Those things that we know that we need to be most focused on to give our young people the best opportunities of success. As a district, we know that students need to lead the way. We need to always put them at the center of what we do, finding ways to allow them to be the leaders of their own education. And so how do we do that? Well, it fits under kind of 4 priority areas. The first one being kind of our focus on the whole child, not just parts of them, but all of them and their academic and personal growth. It's a priority about equitable opportunities for all. That is recognizing that each of our families are different, their needs are different, their expectations are different, and how do we make sure that we're providing the right resources for all families across all parts of our region or across our city. The third priority is about creating strong learning communities in every region. As you know, our district is broken up into 6 regions, mostly geographic, that allows us to focus on, individual needs of each region, and how are we making sure that we're providing resources so no matter which region your young person is a part of, that there's a strong learning community. And fourth, the priority that is close to my heart, and that is authentic engagement. What are we doing to engage our families and our communities and others to make sure that we are doing all we can to provide those resources and supports? And so that's where you would fit in. As part of being a family ambassador, you fit in this district's efforts to achieve that 4th priority, authentic engagement. This notion that we will actively engage all stakeholders within our district to ensure that those experiences with the district engender mutual trust, develop relationships, strengthen collective support, and always for the benefit of our students. You can tell somebody wrote that very academically thinking. I like to put it much simpler, that just says we're going to engage every stakeholder, because in this community, we know that everybody in this community, whether they have a child in our district or not, wants to see our young people succeed. So what are we going to do to engage all of those stakeholders to make it happen? And this effort's being led by our Department of Communications and Engagement. Together, we're working communications and engagement, working side by side, hand in hand, to really look at those ways in which we're engaging all of our families. And our work is really driven by, influenced by, not just what we think will work, but really by some research-based, evidence-inspired work led by a national organization, the National Network of Partnership Schools, which is really driven by the work of a national expert. Her name's Dr. Joyce Epstein. I always joke that she literally wrote the book on family engagement. As part of being a family ambassador, you're going to get a copy of that book, so you'll be able to read about those ways in which we're really focused on family engagement. And then our partners at Ohio State University, the Center for Family Engagement there, they've really committed to being a part of our efforts to grow family engagement. Now, you heard me use the word authentic engagement. What do I mean by authentic engagement? It's not to say that the ways we engaged families in the past didn't work, but what it says is that we nowadays recognize that we have to think differently about engagement, that we really need to be intentional about engaging with our families and our students where they're at, the languages that they speak, at the times when they're available, in the ways that are most accessible to them, probably in multiple formats, multiple attempts, and always with a bit of grace, I say, because we know that not every family is able to engage the same way. Those events of the past where we expected families to come to the school for parent night, that may not work for all of our parents. And so we have to think differently about engagement. What are we doing to meet them where they're at, or in those ways in which they're most available and accessible, so that we're providing great information for them. So you're going to often hear me talk about authentic engagement, and that's what we mean by authentic engagement. And the work of our family ambassadors really builds into that authentic engagement. And so tonight, we want to make sure that you kind of understand what the family engagement program consists of, if selected, what you would be expected to do and to lead in a building, how you would interact with the principals and the staff and the families, and more so thinking about those ways in which this family ambassador program really serves as part of that greater piece of our district efforts to really engage and support all students. So as you have questions tonight, feel free to put them in the chat. I'm going to be watching, and Seneca and Garima are going to be watching. If we don't answer them here, we'll try to answer them in the chat. But I just, again, want to thank each of you for kind of stepping up and recognizing that this might be an opportunity. And as we get to the end of the session, we'll be able to kind of go into a little more detail about kind of the next steps, and then any questions you might have about the position and what it means. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Waldemariam to kind of take us from here and talk through the Family Ambassador Program.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. As Scott said, my name is Garima Waldemariam, and I was just reflecting on, actually, before we came on, how this is going to be my 20th year with the district, proudly with Columbus City Schools. I served as an elementary school teacher for 16 years, and then the last 4 years, I've been lucky to learn alongside, a lot of coordinators as a family engagement coordinator. And, as I was a classroom teacher, you think and you feel like you have great family engagement strategies and practices going on. But what I have come to learn is, although I had a knack for building relationships and good communication, I wasn't necessarily using tips, tools, and strategies around family engagement as consistently as I would have if I would have gone back now. So I say all that to say, Scott emphasized all families. We really are here to engage all families. We do a good job a lot of times of engaging the already engaged, but our department has really sought out to make sure we engage everyone, not just the already engaged. So with that, we'll talk about the Family Ambassador Program. I'm just going to give you an overview about the what. And then my friend Seneca Bing will go over, what kind of the nitty gritty, the everyday could look like. So with the next slide, I'd like to brag a little bit about the department and what we've been able to do. We had a lot of hopes and dreams early on about what a family ambassador could be. And as we examined, the position has really changed, not to suit us and our needs, but really to suit the families and ultimately the students' needs. And what we realized was we wanted the family ambassador position to be opened up to a pool of not just parents or legal guardians, but anyone that's really vested in the community, in the school community, because there are a lot of passionate members of the community that really want to be all in and want to help to contribute. So that was a major win last year. And so that's why many of you are on here. And before we start, I would actually like, as a point of reference for us in data, if you could drop in the chat, how did you hear about the Family Ambassador Program? Because we're always consistently trying to find out ways to better market the program. So if you don't mind dropping in the chat while we move on, did you find out via email, through another family ambassador? Did you see a flyer somewhere? That would be great information for us. Thank you. Thank you. So my intention for the next few slides, you're going to see a lot of words, but don't worry, I'm not going to read every single word for you. I'm just going to highlight the main points. But you probably have been asking, what is a family ambassador? And some of the key words in this box are liaison, coaches, mentors, advises and trains, connects, expands, and then open two-way communication. So, when you think about a family ambassador or family liaison, they are really going to be that conduit, that middle person between school and home, and then home and school, to help families be more successful and to provide them with tips, tools, and strategies so that they can help mentor their children and be academically and developmentally successful. Some of the things that you heard us say, connection and communication, those are huge. Authentically connecting and genuinely connecting with our families is the beginning. And then a lot of our family ambassadors also have worked to expand volunteer opportunities that are centered really on academic achievement. If you were a part of the parent consultant program previously and years before, you knew that we did a lot of muffins with moms and donuts with dads and things, which are great. Trust you me, I love some donuts. However, what we know is that the evidence shows that when we link these events to academics or developmental appropriateness for children, we see stronger attendance, stronger grades, and really more healthy social emotional status for kids. So we'll go on to what we like to call the 6 standards. And the first set that I'm going to talk to you about are really the foundational standards of family engagement. And they are establishing relationships, effective communication, and learning at home. So the 2 that really Scott really talked a lot about previously, no productive relationship can ever begin without a relationship. So we talk a lot during our professional development meetings where we support you monthly about what is a relationship, what could this look like, and how can we help to make better relationships with our parents and families. You will get a lot of PD every month, and then additionally the regional coordinators, which you will learn about, they will also support you. There's a lot of support embedded in this program, and we talk about how it is of the utmost importance to establish relationships, especially if you think about it, coming off of a pandemic year, this year that has been unlike any other. That's probably the biggest area where we need to focus our relationships and communication. We want to help our families and our students know that the school is a community and we support you. When we talk about fostering communication and two-way communication, you'll hear us say two-way. Again, in the past, you might have gotten one-way communication where you're getting emails and flyers and home. Nothing wrong with that, but we really have worked a lot with principals, administration, family ambassadors to establish that two-way communication. Because as you know, if you're a parent or if you support young children, it's important to also be able to ask questions, to seek clarification, to get the needs and to get what you need in terms of communication. And then the last one, which is, this one has made me a better parent and a better teacher. What our families do at home is critical and important, but they can't do, what they don't know, right? There are a lot of families that look to us for tips, tools, and strategies on how to better support their children. And so we have to be there to make sure that we are providing just tips. Life is busy, days are busy. So when we can simplify and help our families, it's the best thing. The last story I'll share with you is I'm a mother to special needs children, and no one is born into that role. I had to learn how to better support my children, as do typical children, right? Parents need to be able to support those students. So the family ambassadors spend a lot of time giving tips, tools, and strategies via Zoom, via s'mores, on the phone, you name it, we do it, right? Any mode of communication, we reach out to our families. And then the last set of standards, the 3 equally important on the next slide, are volunteering at home, community partners, and decision-making. Again, volunteering with our program looks different. What we seek to do is to put volunteers to help support our students, right? So family ambassadors, and I want to make sure that I emphasize this part. In the past, many parents and many community members have gone in to support and volunteer with students. In this role, we don't do that. We don't support directly the students. You can't go in and do flashcards or read with the children. What we do help with is finding volunteers to help in the school. So you can help train and recruit volunteers for the school, to help support the teachers, to help support different programs in the school. But we want to be very clear in saying the Title I grant will not allow us to have you directly go in and support children. What we do is help children through adults. So we help to build capacity of our volunteers and other family members. Our community partners, boy, were they huge this year, right? Our department worked alongside community partners to provide things from school supplies and different things as necessities as food, some social emotional help. If you were with us last year, you noticed that we did a lot of family engagement sessions in the evenings. We had many, many community partners that came on to support the work of supporting our students the entire year. We look forward to doing that and know that that is a crucial part of your work. Many of you also probably work for different community organizations, and that's an asset actually in this work, is having those connections to different communities, to civic associations. That'll be an important part of your toolkit that you'll want to use. And then lastly, decision-making and advocacy. So again, as Seneca and I will tell you, we've spent many years in the past few years really talking about how all parents, all guardians have hopes and dreams for their children. And we've talked about and tried to give tips and tools and strategies about how can you advocate for your child, right? How can you better advocate? What are some tips in doing that? What are some tips in building your capacity with decision making and your students' capacity? We've talked about habits of mind with our family ambassadors. So that is the last and important standard that I want to mention. Again, I went over these really quick, but we do take time during our professional development to really go dig deeper. But we want to leave you with that idea of knowing these are the standards from which we operate. And so we look forward to having many of you with us. And I'm going to pass the baton to my friend and colleague, Seneca Bing.
All right, well, good evening. I am Seneca Bing, and I'm the second family engagement coordinator here in our department. I'm going on into, I believe it's my 17th year in the district, and I spent a lot of time in high school before this role as a school counselor. And so this will be an extremely busy time of year in high school, working with 11th and 12th grade and getting schedules together. So, but I say all that to say, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here. And we are very interactive. And so I'm just going to take a few things out of the chat really quick. We asked you how you heard. I want to shout out Miss Judy Wright, because she walks alongside us in this department, and I see her name in here many times. So Miss Judy, thank you if you are here. I see folks got things from church, from administrators, from I see my name in here. I was rivaling Miss Judy, but I think she's beating me a little bit. But let's see. And just a variety of places, the Columbus Dream Center, some of our community partners, Ohio Health. So I say all that to say, I'm so glad that you answered the call, that you are here, and that we can give you a little more information. So you heard a little bit about the standards, and I know that we asked you to submit questions. So we will get to those questions at the end, but where do you start was one of those questions that kept coming up. So we just want to give you a little bit of information about how you will tie some of these pieces together. So the school improvement plan drives the work of every building. Each school will have their own plan, and it will be centered around their school community. What will be important and what we will work to do is make sure that you have information about the family engagement strategies. One major win that we were able to get was family engagement language embedded in the current school improvement plan. And so no longer is it, so what activities are you going to do at the end? Schools have to be thoughtful around what is your family engagement strategy that supports literacy, that supports numeracy, that supports graduation. And so we were really happy with that. And that's a great starting point for us as a family engagement team, family ambassadors, the regional coordinators, and everyone else who will be doing this work to start. Of course, getting to know the people. Again, some of you already are well connected in the community. And so you know a lot of stakeholders, but getting to know the staff members. And we created a document to help with that because we realized that people are in different places. Some people can go into a school, and if you've worked in education, you're good with that. Others are a little more timid or need a little more support. And so we wanted to create a document to help with that. Getting to know stakeholders. Again, a lot of you are from our community partners, and so you will know a lot of them. And so again, you will see in different buildings, some people, some buildings have tons of partners, and then some buildings are working to beef their partnerships up. And so again, you will be an integral part there. One thing, that red little note there that says you cannot solicit donations. So because we are funded with Title I funds and or a lot of grant money, it is important that we understand that you cannot solicit donations. And also, people ask about being a part of the PTO and the PTA. Please note that you cannot hold any positions on the PTO or PTA, and especially not treasurer. Please do not do that. So, but you can go to the meetings and report about what's happening in the school from your vantage point or your lens as a family ambassador. All right, so we can move on to the next slide. Of course, we will be expanding and we'll have 6 regional engagement coordinators, family engagement coordinators. And so they will be a great resource to you. They will be responsible for 1 region each. And so that will be your immediate contact as you are doing your work. We will have regional meetings, or they will host regional meetings. I keep saying we, because for so long it has been Garima and I supporting this work for all the family ambassadors. And so now it will be a lot of other layers and support that will be extremely helpful. But hosting those regional meetings gives you an opportunity to meet with other folks in your region. You can form greater partnerships and collaboration amongst your schools. And so that is just a great resource. And then we have professional development meetings again, where Garima talked about, we go deeper into the standards. We learn from internal and external stakeholders about what's happening in and outside of Columbus City schools. And then we do a lot of breakouts, because we found, and what we've been told by our family ambassadors, is they like to learn from one another, because we always say the knowledge is in the room. And so we learn better together. And so we do provide those opportunities as well. Next slide. And then again, gathering lists of phone numbers. One of the things that we are going to ask family ambassadors to do this year is check and connect phone calls. If you were familiar with We Care Wednesday last year, it was a concerted effort to make tons of phone calls with many people helping out in that space. We want to continue with this effort and make sure that our families are connecting, and so with our school. And so our family ambassadors will also be a great part and help in that space. And then an introduction letter. Again, these are some things that we will talk about in orientation, but that's a good way to introduce yourself to the families and to the staff. If you know that there's a newsletter that goes out, including something about yourself in that newsletter, or just trying to figure that that piece out, and you'll figure it out a little more as you go and get to know the school and kind of figure out what's happening there. But these are some starting points. And then attending building meetings, introducing yourself at a staff meeting, or at least attending. And if you have things to report, asking, can you share something that you could share? But also PBIS is a positive behavior and intervention supports team. And some of our family ambassadors they sit on that team, and they offer that family lens that is much needed in that space. And then the BLT, the building leadership team, what you will know is we have a million acronyms in Columbus City Schools. So we also provide you with the acronym sheet. So you know what all these things are. But the building leadership team, now, where applicable, because what we can admit is that sometimes principals allow for family ambassadors to sit on that team, and sometimes they don't. And so it depends on the structure of the school's team. But there's also attendance teams, there's graduation teams if you're a high school family ambassador. So you will see that each school is kind of made up differently, and you'll be able to have a seat on some of those teams or meetings. And next, all right, so the next steps, I know that I went through that pretty quick, but I wanted to get to some of the questions that you all submitted to us. But we did ask you to sign up for a group interview. And the reason for that is so that we can talk to you. It'll be Garima and I. I don't know if Scott can join us, because I know he's like running crazy, even though school has not started yet. But we will just talk to you a little more. And so if you have some questions that have come up or that we don't address or answer here tonight, you can always ask those questions there. And it gives us a opportunity to be interactive. It is so hard for Garima and I with these Zoom meetings. Okay, we are used to being in the space, hugging people, talking to people, and so it is hard to just be virtual. And so if you have not, please sign up. Garima did just drop that link in the chat. If you've already signed up, that is great. We will send you a follow-up email with the Zoom link to meet with us. And any more next steps? All right. And then I know that we've asked you a couple of times to indicate what school or what side of town you will be interested in. And that is to help us as we are trying to pull things together and piece things together. What we want you to know, though, is that principals are also in the process of hiring who they want. And so sometimes we'll think a building is available and then the principal will send us an email and we have to readjust. And so currently, Garima is going to drop in the chat the list of elementary, middle, and high schools that still need support. And then what we will do is, as we're having our group interviews, we will talk to one another. We'll take the list that you've already sent us and kind of try to compare and figure things out. And then we will work to match you up as best as possible. We will then send names to principals because it is ultimately the principal who does decide the family ambassador that comes to their school. They know that they each need to have one, but we do try to help them in the process by giving them names of candidates that we've already spoke to and will feel will be a great fit for their building. And then they will take the next step to let us know where they plan to go. One thing that I did want to point out that we did not have is that you will have to do a background check, and it's a BCI and an FBI check. And so you'll need to, and we'll get into that nitty gritty once you've been selected. But we do want you to know that it is a process. It doesn't just happen. And so there are several steps in that process, and we will definitely get to those steps. So I did print off the questions that you all sent, and Scott, Garima, myself, I will read the question because some of them were duplicates and some of them we may have already answered in the presentation. And so there were a couple that I did select. But before that, I want to pause and see, Garima or Scott, is there anything that I left off? Is there any comments?
Friends, let me just say again, we appreciate the fact that you stepped up to say you were interested in doing this position. Yeah. So tonight, I hope you started to get a better sense of the expectations, to recognize that as a family ambassador, it's not simply just somebody to hang out at the school or maybe answer the phone or volunteer. We've actually, because of the great research that our team has pulled together, the great direction that Seneca and Garima have really pulled over the years, we've been able to create a position, if you will, within each school in which that person is really relied upon to be that connection, that liaison, that advocate for our families. And in many of our buildings, that is quickly becoming such a valued position, so much so that we were able to convince Dr. Dixon, and she was it didn't take much to convince her because she really believes in this effort, to increase the number of hours that we could have, family ambassadors work, to, almost double the stipend that was there to support our family ambassadors. So, we're making the investment and the commitment because we see the value in these positions. But then there's also expectations. You saw in there about, probably doing some sort of newsletters, making sure that you're working with families on a regular basis, even to the point of making phone calls. So I hope you're starting to get a sense of kind of this is what the expectations would be. And I hope that each of you are still excited about wanting to do this. And as we go through some of these specific questions, I hope that it's helping you see that bigger picture, because as Seneca said, then we got to go through the process. I mean, friends, let's all be real. This is a government position. There's, so there's always steps that we have to go through. But we do it for reasons. We do the background checks for a reason. We got to, sign you up as a vendor. You'll be getting a badge, because in the end, you're going to be representing Columbus City Schools. You're going to be representing Dr. Dixon and our commitment to engagement. So there's a lot of pieces that we have to do, but gosh, we know this is going to be exciting. So we hope you're still excited to want to go through this. So thank you.
All right. Thank you. Garima, before I get into the first
Yeah,
question.
no, I was just going to tag on to what Scott said. There are a lot of you on here, about 34 of us. If having additional language expertise is also really critical. So please make sure you let us know. And if you have other members in your community that are interested in helping to support our authentic engagement work and efforts, please let them know, because we are seeking to put in 109 plus family ambassadors in the building. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So the first question is, do I need to bring anything that would be vital to the interview? I would say your smiling face would be vital, but no, it's really an opportunity for us to get to know you and to just have an opportunity to talk to you face to face. And so that if there are any questions that you have that come up after this, I would definitely say to bring those, but we're not going to stand and make you do a presentation or anything like that. If because one of the things we talk about is perhaps having open office hours with Zoom. If you are like, wait a minute, I have not done Zoom, trust me, we provide PD. And we've had some great strides with some of our folks. I wish Miss Sylvia was here, because she was not touching a computer, and now she's on there doing Zoom meetings and doing all this stuff. And so again, we are there to support. We will not just say and go, and make you do that. So we have some great success stories with that. What is the day today of being a family ambassador look like? And so we share with you some of the things. What I will tell you, and I know my friend here, she'll jump in. If you have never been in education before, what I can tell you is what you plan day to day will not happen day to day. And so you have a to-do list and you hope you can get to some things. But what we know is working in a building, working, in that space, there's so much happening. You will just do the best that you can, but having goals will be important. And so we will set goals with you so that you can think about, or you will set your goals and we will support you and walk alongside you with those. And so if it's to make 20 phone calls and you make, 15, but you helped 5 or 6 parents who came in the door, okay, you had communication with families. So it's the nature of the beast and we understand it.
Yeah, and I think to tag along with what Seneca said, having been in the classroom, if you talk to your kids about, the first day of school, first month of school, teachers tend to spend time on processes and procedures and getting to know the kids. So similarly, you will, if I see a few family ambassadors that are on here that came for a little refresher too. If you talk to some of our veterans, they will tell you usually the first few months and the year that is spent really just establishing relationships with all stakeholders, with the teachers in the building. You get some influencers and champions out of those teachers, you're going to move mountains. And then, making connections with the families, because if you're like us, the 3 of us, we want to go. We want 100% at the very beginning, but we also have to understand that we have to build those relationships first, and then the rest will come and fall in place. And we will support you with all of that.
All right. The next question, thank you, is how many hours a week is expected of family ambassadors? And so your PO will be for up to 20 hours a week. And we say that because you will set the time frame with the principal of when you will be there, but we will ask you to set a time frame and then to make sure that the secretary in the office and others know when you will be available and in the building, and the regional coordinators.
And just to be clear on that, it's about 20 hours a week. So don't go into thinking, okay, I could do about 5 a week. No, we're looking for individuals who can commit about 20 hours a week. And as Seneca said, there may be sometimes where it's, all 5 days for 4 hours, or maybe there's going to be a big day, like the first day of school, you may be there all day or have events, but it's about that 20 hours per week that we're looking for. That's what we've budgeted for. That's what the investment that Dr. Dixon has given us is for, that 20 hours a week over about 38 weeks. So that's the hope, is 20 hours a week.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The first date of employment. So this is always tricky. You are a contracted vendor with the district. And so the first date will be the date that is listed on your purchase order, because you cannot get a purchase order until your background check is cleared, until you have a vendor number. And then that is our next step to request the purchase order. There will be a date and we will show you, but that will be the very first day that you can claim any hours. And I know that it gets tricky if it's after the school year, because some people go and they help with the first day, or there are, if you're in elementary school, there's these ice cream socials or back to school, all these little things. I will say that if you do not have a purchase order, then those will be volunteer hours. You cannot claim them on your purchase order. And that is because, again, we are dealing with federal funds and auditors. And so we do not want those two pieces to be out of sync. Okay, Scott, this may be a question for you. Will there be any opportunities for remote engagement? I know that there were some folks who had asked about that.
Sorry, to make sure I was off mute. Remote engagement. So yes, in that, we'll be looking for those ways in which we can support you in doing some of these virtual type engagement sessions. But no, our expectation would be that you'd be in the building. You heard me say at the beginning of our presentation, we're all in this year. And so our goal is to, as best possible, be in person with our families. But we're also authentic. And so we recognize that sometimes families, you can't always be in person. So I think there'll be a blend of it. But our hope is that, this is a lot of in-person engagement work at the school building. Now, let me just make sure I put in there that we will be following health and safety protocols throughout the entire school year. So anytime you're in a building, for now, you'll be wearing a mask. If you've not been in one of our school buildings recently, we've put in place some of these different protocols and procedures. You can't turn without seeing hand sanitizer, a bottle of that, or reminders to our young people to wash their hands, or some spacing things. So, we've got a lot of health and safety protocols. We think those are in place, will allow us to do more in person. So for the most part, it's in person, but we'll also be supporting you to do some virtual work.
And if I can add to that too, please know that this work is collaborative. So, when and if asked, to do Zoom sessions and things, oftentimes our family ambassadors are working with instructional coaches in the building, counselors in the building, PBIS coordinators, because again, there's a lot of influence, right? And there's a lot of influencers, and we can't know everything. So most of the time, most of the work is in collaboration and conjunction with other professionals in the building.
Thank you. And before I move on to the next question, what we did not do is do an attendance sheet. So in the chat, if you don't mind just listing your name, that way we can save the chat and we'll have a frame of reference of who joined us this evening. So if you don't mind listing your name in the chat, that would be amazing. All right, so are any handouts available for those who missed? Again, we will record the session. So if you know of anyone who could not be here, just let them know that we've recorded the session, and we will probably either send it out or send some follow-up communication to the list of people that we have that has filled out an application so far. Let's see.
And you can share it with prospective candidates as well.
Prospective candidates, yes. Let's see. One question is, what is the most important objective for the family ambassador to accomplish in their interactions between families and their teachers? Garima.
Ultimately, what we is to support the whole child. And when we say to support the whole child, we're talking about academic needs, social emotional needs, developmental needs. I love that we have broadened, because we know the academics, you can't just talk about academics, you have to talk about the whole child. The whole child has to be healthy. And so ultimately, we know all of our efforts are to be all in to support our children so that they can have a great shot at whatever they go on to do.
Right. Thank you. I put you on the spot. You passed the test. No, I'm kidding. Um, will there be any additional trainings? As we stated before, we have all kinds of support. We like to call it nested support, because you'll have different trainings, you'll have PD opportunities. And so we will make sure that these things are available. Let's see. How flexible is the work schedule? Is it conducive to a college student? I would say as long as they can commit up to 20 hours, yes. So again, up to that 20 hours is really what's going to be important. How many hours per day are we needed? Again, that goes up to 20 hours, and working that schedule out. Oh, this is a question. How can my CHW certification be used while being an ambassador? If the person who's on the line can let us know what CHW is, unless I'm the only one that doesn't. If you could spell that out, we'd be able to answer that question or get an answer to that question. But I didn't want it to go unfilled because I didn't know what that was. Okay. And just 3 more. Oh, nope, we've already answered that twice. Let's see. So are parents involved, or is this trying to get the parents involved? That's a great question. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say again, I know you've probably heard us say authentic engagement, communication, but really it also boils down to building capacity. We don't ever assume that parents come to us not knowing X, Y, or Z. What we talk a lot about is meeting families where they are and helping to build capacity, because everyone on this call even is at different levels with many things. We don't like to be presumptuous. We know and try to look at children and our families as having assets. They know their children the best, and we want to be able to support them. So we want to be able to meet individually. That's why, again, I could go on and on about this, because I've seen how it makes a difference in my own children's lives when I can support them. But going to for example, a big meeting, an entertainment event at my children's school, I don't leave with a tip to better support how to get my son, to read better. Oftentimes this is happening in smaller groups, one-on-one with teachers, with counselors, with other professionals. So we really take time, because we help and we work with other coordinators and teachers to build their capacity as well, and talk about authentic engagement. Pick up the phone, call people, have a translator 2 weeks before parent-teacher conference ready to go. So again, these are things, and I can say this because I was a teacher. So if you're thinking, oh gosh, how are you speaking like? It's because I was a teacher, and I know what difference it would have made if we would have started off with some of this more intentional planning and strategizing.
All right, perfect. Thank you. And I got a response from the CHW. Thank you, Rochelle. It says, this wasn't my question, but I'm a CHW. It's a community health worker. And so basically they connect families and community resources. So what I will say is absolutely, you could actually be mutually beneficial for you to be a family ambassador, because I'm sure that as a community health worker, there are tons of resources and things that we don't know about and that you will learn from us. So it would be a win-win situation, as long as, again, that 20 hours is not a factor and you're able to commit that. So yes, we would absolutely love to have you. And I think that was, yes, can you use the certification that way? So yes. And then the final question, hold on.
Seneca, I saw someone drop a question into the chat as well about background
perfect.
check.
We can go with that. Yeah.
while you're looking up that final
Yep.
question, the one
Yep.
here about background checks. Yes, you will need to get an updated one, even if you've had one. This is going to sound funny, but there are different background checks. So when the school district runs a background check, we're looking for certain things that would pop up that would make you ineligible to work with students, versus maybe a bank that would do a background check that's looking for certain things that would make it, you ineligible to work with money. So each background check is a little different. I'm sure it is not an issue with anybody, but I just want to give you that sense. You would have to have a different one. Now, as we talk about wins for this program, it used to be that we asked the family ambassadors to pay for that background check. As we thought about this, it's like, how do you ask somebody to step up and help you and then say, oh, by the way, you got to pay to do it? We're covering the cost of those background checks these days. So that's how much we know that your work is going to be valued, that we want to make sure that that doesn't become the barrier. So you would have to get a different, an updated background check. But what's great is, again, unlike past years, we're really now trying to work ahead. I know school starts in only, a couple weeks, but our team is really moving fast, trying to get these positions filled, because we would love for you to be in your role by the first day of school. Now, it might be asking a lot. It might be a heavy lift for some of our processes that we have to go through, but we want to get you, in place as quick as possible.
And actually, we'd already answered the last question, the final question. So I think we are good there with all the questions that were submitted. Good. All right. So in our final moments, I know that we are wrapping up, but we do want to give opportunity for any final questions that may have come up that are not in the chat. If you have one, please feel free to drop that question in the chat or something that you did not hear. If not, you may gain a few minutes of your life back, and we won't go to 5 o'clock.
Well, again, I want to thank each of you for thinking about and considering this opportunity. We are excited to have, and I look forward to hopefully having many of you on board as a family ambassador. Again, because the district's made this commitment knowing how important family engagement is. So we really look forward to having you on. I won't ask the question that if we scared anybody off giving all this information, because I know it can be overwhelming. You're like, oh my gosh, what are they asking me to do again? I hope that the thing that you took away most was, while there are the expectation of the hours and some of the different work, there's also the supports. I hope you heard from both Seneca and Grima that we're there with you every step of the way. So as we ask you to, help produce a newsletter that goes out, once a month, twice a month, those technology tools, we're going to be there to help you with it. As we encourage you to do these Zoom sessions or virtual sessions, we're going to be there to make sure that technology is not the barrier, that we're helping you to connect. As we think about these different practices, the best practices, we're going to be there to help lift that work. So there's never a case of us just kind of saying, okay, and then throw you in the deep end. We're going to be there at every step to make you successful. If you're ready to make that commitment of the hours and to working with our families and being their advocate, then we're going to be that advocate right beside you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So we definitely thank you. And again, I know you said the technology, we just always tell a story about one of our family ambassadors who came to us, and she is fantastic in her school, and her school loves her, but she is a grandmother. She's there with her grandson. And when she first came, this technology thing was not her thing. But she is doing a lot of beautiful things in the school and such a presence, to where I've been in teacher meetings and teachers are talking about this woman in our small breakouts and meetings with other teachers. So it's just such an impact that family ambassadors make on the building. And so I'm so happy that you are here and at least considering answering the call. And plus, who better people than Garima and I to work with? I mean, oh my gosh, no, but we really even your afternoon to be here with us.
Thank you. Yes, we appreciate you. We consider, even though this is our professional, this is our career, we really have a great family, a great community. And we feel lucky and honored to be able to do this work for the children and the families of Columbus City Schools. So thank you again. We appreciate you.
Good evening, everyone.
All right, friends. Thank you. Thank you. We look forward to connecting with you in the group interview. So everybody have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you. It looks like there was one question, Gloria, if you're still here. She was saying that